In the interim, while they're setting up for this other drink, Megan asks him, so how did you get into mixology? And then he says that he used to be a lawyer in New York City. Megan asks him, oh, did you ever watch Suits? Okay, just like throw the girl a bone. I mean, she was on a show about lawyers, and that's the best thing that she can do to connect with you about how you were a lawyer. Now, is that lame of Megan to have brought up her show where she pretended to be a lawyer and act like that was equal to what he did? Yes. But, let's just all get along, right? And then he looks at it, he's like, no, I don't watch basic cable. I like shows with cursing. I'm telling you, this exchange was the worst. Everyone on set right now agreed to be here. So let's just get along. I don't watch basic cable. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We have an episode today that is potentially the most boring that we've watched so far. It's going to be a short episode because as much as I try to bring you these episodes in detail, there was nothing that happened in this episode. Like, I'm being legitimately serious with you. Like, zero happened. I'm surprised that they even tried to make this an episode. It was 29 minutes long, so already shorter than most episodes, but the content of the episode was so dull that it felt like they just had to fulfill their 8 episode requirement, and so they tried to make something that was happening in Megan's life into an episode. So this is the premise for this episode. Megan has a friend named Heather. They were both in LA at the same time when they were like growing up, young adults in their 20s. This girl, Heather, had started a Pilates studio, and Megan was one of her first clients. They also lived near each other, and so they worked out together. They ran 5 miles a day together every day. Now, Megan is with Harry, and now she lives in Montecito. Heather has since married, has several children, and she moved to Texas. But Heather's back in LA, so Megan's going to have a girls' trip. And that's what this episode is based on. So already completely different from the typical, I'm having someone over to my home, we're going to cook, we're going to show you recipes and things. So it totally feels like a tacked on episode. They couldn't have put it at the end because that would have felt too clunky to have something this bad right at the end. It would have felt like the show just totally petered out. They also can't have this in the middle because if they put this boring episode in the middle, you won't come back for the next episode thinking that was so bad that I guess she doesn't have anything else to say. They put this episode second to last. They should have just made this a 7-episode season. And whatever this trash is, they should have just been like, we're not doing 8 episodes this season. We're just doing 7. Because at least they would be 7 episodes that had, some meat on their bones, some episodes meatier than others. Like last episode we talked about was a good episode because it had a good guest. I don't even know why they decided to do this episode. It's so boring. Heather brings something to the table, all right? So already, it's like, we can't rely on Heather to bring anything. And of course, Megan, if she's not going to cook anything, like what are we going to... We're literally watching them do things that they aren't good at and that they're not happy to be doing. So what is this? It starts out, crazily enough, with an opening scene of Megan packing her bag, saying she's going to go on a girls' trip and she's going to take us with her. Whoop-de-doo. But what's crazy is she's packing her bags in a house that isn't hers. We know this house doesn't belong to her, so it just... She's told us so many times. We're not even supposed to be functioning under the guise that this is a home she owns. She's told us numerous times in the first season, this isn't my house, this isn't my house, this isn't my house. So for us to have an opening scene of her packing in that same house to go on a girls' trip, it's like, already, this is lame. I just don't feel like pretending with her. I don't feel like suspending my imagination for this. Come on. But she's got this bag. It's a beautiful leather bag, and it's the interior of the bag is lined in this sort of tattersall pattern. And she uses this scene as an opportunity to get buy-in from you because she's going to throw out to you couple of little personal tidbits. I'm talking to you about some of the most pathetic breadcrumbs we've ever received from anyone, but I guess she thinks we're so desperate for every little tidbit about her life that this will suffice. And I think that in the absence of any meat on this episode, her hope is that you will begin to like her as a person because she's going to show you more of just who she is without the context of the show being why you're tuning in. This episode is like, do you want to just watch me? Well, the answer is no. But anyway, she's going to pack, and her point in this scene is to teach you how to pack. This is where she's going to give you all her tips and tricks on how to effectively pack a bag for a trip. She's also going to give us a little fashion advice too, because that's what we want. Before she packs a bag, she wants to tell us about the bag, right? She's apparently had this bag for years and years and years. This is a bag that she just has traveled around the world in. And in fact, you guys listen to this. This is the same bag that she packed when she went to Botswana with Harry on their third date for 5 days. And this is the bag that she put all her little clothes in. Of course, not any like makeup or like hair tools or anything like that, because like she's not so dumb that she would bring that out to Africa. Of course, there wasn't anywhere to like blow dry her hair. So just like her clothes, essentials, and then her yoga mat. And that was it. This bag and a yoga mat. Okay, Megan. And so she starts packing her bag. She is wearing from head to toe a maroon outfit as she's packing her bag. And she says that all of her outfits tend to be monochromatic. That's not because it's necessarily a fashion choice. It's just that it's easier. I don't believe that for a second. She does it because she thinks it's chic and she thinks it's elegant. And so that's what she chooses to do. But so say that. Anyway, then she goes on to say that it's important to make sure that you've packed things that you can mix and match the whole time. Because what if there's a different event that comes up or you weren't planning on doing something, but if you have packed everything that would go together with each other, then you can just pull whatever out of the bag and put it on and you'll have options. Okay. Then she gives us this little bit of advice. Moments with Megan. And she says that when she was acting, she used to get so nervous before auditions. And so she shared this with her acting coach, and she just said, I'm so nervous before auditions. And then her acting coach told her this really, really, really helpful bit of advice. Megan, if you've prepared, you don't have to be nervous. So you can apply that to packing. Like, don't get nervous when you pack. If you're prepared, you don't have to be nervous. What is that advice? If you have to go to the bathroom, then go, and then you don't have to go to the bathroom anymore. If it's sort of stuffy in the car, you roll down the window, and then it isn't stuffy anymore. If it hurts your feet to walk outside without shoes, you put shoes on your feet, and then your feet don't hurt anymore. Like, what is this? What is this advice that she's passing on from her acting coach? Like, that's not really a pearl of wisdom. That's common sense. So, I mean, automatically, like, I have to tell you, at a certain point, I was like, do I even cover this episode? Because this is what we were working with. After her little advice about what her coach said about being prepared, that reminds her that she used to be in the Girl Scouts. And so she's like, Troop 949. That was my mom's troop. The stories I could tell. So many stories. Anyway, and she gets on back to it. And I'm like, please, a new story, anything. Even if it has to be about Troop 949, your mom's troop. She was your scout leader. Like, we've heard that part already. You told us that last episode. You've told us that everywhere you can tell us that your mom was your troop leader, you've told us. Are you ever going to expound on anything that happened while you were selling Thin Mints? I mean, it's like, this is what I'm saying to you, what I was saying to you in the last episode. Megan has a threshold, and then she's not crossing the threshold as far as it comes to personal information. She's decided, I'm going to let you guys in this much, and then that's it. But it's like, that's not enough, because you keep saying the beginning of a story and then not finishing. Okay, we know about Troop 949. Okay, do you want to tell us, like, what? Was your mom not a good troop leader? Like, what stories do you want to tell us? Were you the best troop ever? What are these stories? Like, the way she says it, like, she could really let us in on some stuff. If she had time, but she doesn't. Anyway, back to packing. She's throwing in a hat that was Harry's hat. It says PH40. Obviously, Prince Harry. She had these hats made when he turned 40. She's going to bring it so that when she goes for her morning run, she has a hat to wear. Okay. And then she throws in some framed photographs of her kids because she likes to put that on her bedside table. She could look at her phone, but she's sentimental like that, and she doesn't really like to look at her phone. She wants real pictures of her kids on her bedside table. Her friends thinks it's so cute that she does that she has like real pictures that she puts on her bedside table, but that's just the kind of vibe she wants in her hotel room. So after she gets done packing and talking about how sentimental she is, she grabs her bag and says, let's run away, which I feel like is an interesting statement to make when you just got done talking about how much you love your kids. Anyway, to continue on, she has to break away for a minute because she needs to talk about how she's going to make a snack for her friend. She's really into these thumbprint cookies. Now, in an episode that is so throwaway, I cannot even convey to you in enough strong language what a throwaway episode this is. Of course, this is the one where she has to do something with her tired old jam, right? Because we have to pay homage to the thing that started it all, the raspberry jam. So she's going to make some of those tired old thumbprint cookies that she's been making everywhere, on her channel, on other people's shows. Back to the thumbprint cookies. She makes the dough. Now she's talking about the dough. She's talking about her friend Heather and how, back in the day, this wasn't something that she or Heather would eat, But now that they're in their 40s, they just have let things go. Like, you don't care so much about your body image. It's just like you've grown and matured. On the one hand, yes, I know what she's talking about. The older you get, the more you realize what is and isn't important. And the things that you used to obsess about are no longer that big of a deal. But I'm like, Megan, of all the people to tell me that you don't care about how you look, can you explain to me why it looks like in the last year and a half you lost 30 pounds? You know what I'm saying? It's like, for somebody who's like, I just don't care what I look like anymore. It's just like, that's like the last thing on my priority list. I don't believe you. Anyway, she says that way back in the day, neither she or Heather would ever eat these cookies. Like, they would never have let such a thing pass their lips, but now they've matured. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Have you? Or is this a bit of sabotage cooking, where you're taking these buttery, sugary cookies to your friend who you know is a Pilates instructor and who cares a great deal about her body and her health? Is this sabotage cooking, where you are bringing a tasty treat that you know she will eat, and then you can feel like one up on her? You know how there are mean girls who do that? We've talked about it many times on this show. People who try to sabotage others in their health or fitness journeys. I just don't see how two people who have made their friendship around health, wellness, and clean eating would gift each other a buttery, sugary cookie. I don't even care if you're in your 40s. Because do you really think your friend's going to eat this? And of course, she says her friend will eat them, but then when she gives them to her friend, she says, these are for your kids. And, her friend's like, I'll have one too. But, I don't know. I'm probably just reading into too much of the whole, gift giving. It all comes down to the fact that she just hadn't made anything with her jam yet on the show and had to do that. And so she'll chuck these cookies at Heather and hope her kids will eat them, Now it's time to drive to LA so she can meet her friend. It's kind of confusing because she said her friend was coming to meet her there, but then she's in the car driving to meet her friend in LA, so I don't know. But they're driving to LA and she's giving us the background on her friend. Okay, so there's that. And she says that she doesn't go to LA as often, even though they live just about 2 hours away when you count in traffic. But when she goes, she tries to make the most of it. It's usually business and some fun, but this is just going to be just fun trip, which I think is ridiculous because what are you talking about? We're sitting in the car with you. You obviously are going on this trip for work because you're trying to make an episode of your show. This is similar to asking me to imagine that fake house that you've rented is your real house and that you're packing your clothes in your room, when we all know that that's the room in the house that you rented. And now I'm in the car with you and you're like, I'm going on a trip, just a fun girls trip. I'm not working this time. Yes, but you are, because I'm here, so I know you're working. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, this feels like a reality TV episode where you're pretending like you're just living your life and I get to come along, but we're in rented houses and you're quote unquote not working, but we know that you are. It's like, scrap this whole episode. The premise for this episode is lame. So she finally gets where she's going and we meet Heather and Megan at a pottery studio and they're going to make some vessels or whatever. They're already at their pottery wheels. Like, they've already been set up with clay and everything. So we don't get any opening shots of anything. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't have been interesting anyway. The teacher there, who's going to show them how to do it, says to them basically, so you're going to put your clay in the middle of the wheel, and then you are just going to lock in on that piece of clay until it's in the exact center. Megan can't wait to use this. Moments with Megan. And she says, isn't that a metaphor for life? You just have to lock in until you're centered. I can't anymore with these little moments with Megan. Every minute of her life, she's looking for some little bit of wisdom that she can impart so that you can start to think of her as not just a lifestyle guru, but also a spiritual guru. And I'm just telling you, Megan, we never will think of you that way. I would love it if you had a trajectory in your journey as a human being to where you could be somebody that was telling us something that we could really use. It's not like she never tells us anything useful. It's just that it's usually like pragmatic tips about how to give better gifts. or how to wrap better presents, how to put a crease in your paper when you wrap. All good tips and tricks, but stay in your lane. That's what you're good at. And I'll give her that. She's good at little practical tips and tricks on how to make things look pretty. Great. But don't try to tell me about how locking the clay into the middle of the potter wheel is a metaphor for life. Just skip it. As they're working at their pottery wheel, they can't get it right, and it's a moment for like, oh, this is so funny, look at us trying so hard. And they keep giving each other pep talks about how it's going to be okay because it's just for fun though, right? Like, we can just have fun. Like we just don't have to be too precious about it. Just have fun. And I'm like, do it already then. Stop talking about how we just need to have fun and just have fun. Megan seems like the sort of person that you would dread to have as a mother because she hates messes. She is constantly having to tell herself to be in the moment, to have joy. She's always telling herself what she needs to feel instead of just being there and feeling it. And she seems like a really uptight, high-strung sort of person. I don't know anybody who sits at the pottery wheel and has to tell themselves to have fun. Isn't it just fun by nature? And I don't know why they book themselves something that if they are not artistic and they wouldn't like this kind of thing, then don't book that kind of activity. Megan even says in the car in a voiceover moment, even though you're supposed to think it's her talking, but you can tell by the audio that it's a added in line, that this might not be their thing, but they'll just go and try and have a good time. Well, don't you know Heather or yourself well enough to know if this is an activity you do or don't want to do? Clearly it was just for us because she needed something to fill this episode. But is there nothing else you guys could do? They managed to make a cup each, and then Megan makes this sort of shallow bowl plate, and the other girl makes a bowl. All right, good for them. Megan writes a little message at the bottom of the plate because she's intending to use this for her avocado toast in the morning that she gives to Harry, and then he'll eat his toast, and then after he is done with his toast and he'll lift up the toast, he'll see this little message that says, "Good morning, my love." Okay, good for Megan. It's like, that's how I felt. Okay. If you're still with me at this point in the episode, bravo you. They get filthy making these cups and bowls. I mean, absolutely filthy. I don't know why it didn't occur to either one of them to take their jewelry off. Because both of them have a bunch of gold bracelets on that are just caked. Caked, I tell you, in clay. Then Megan decides that they need to go and take showers, which gives her an opportunity to tell Heather that she has a present for her for when she gets in the shower. Okay, let's go back to the house. Let's cut over to some film of her making some kind of a gift. This is what she calls a shower soother. And I've had some of these. You toss it into the floor of your shower, and then when the shower water hits this little, it's kind of like a bath bomb, but it's for the shower, then it just smells really good in there. Okay. It's basically just made out of baking soda, essential oils, and a little bit of water to make it into a paste that will form into a mold. So then we do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are not intricate. These are not interesting crafts. So, I mean, the episode just dragged. And I know I'm not doing a good job conveying this to you. I mean, there's not even anything funny or interesting I can tell you. She made her little paste, she put it into her little mold, and that was that. And that's how all of this is. Okay, then she did this, and that was that. There's no interesting conversation. There's nothing being done or had. Okay, after we get done with the shower steamer, craft, we cut back to her. One of the other activities she has planned is that she found some bartender. God only knows where, because this guy is the literal worst. The literal worst. And they're going to learn how to make some drinks. I cannot tell you how not into any of this her friend Heather is. Heather is just not bringing it. And she doesn't seem interested to be there. She doesn't really want to seem to do any of the activities. She's got nothing to say. Right? And quite frankly, in this entire episode, I'm starting to feel bad for Megan because I feel like she's trying to make something happen. And it's not happening. Heather was unenthusiastic about the clay making, and she's really unenthusiastic about mixing the drinks. And this joker that she's brought in to do the drink mixing, it's like, dude, you're getting paid to be here. If you didn't want to do it, then you shouldn't agree to do it. But this guy literally seems like the worst. I don't know who he is. Maybe he really is somebody, and I'm the person that doesn't recognize him. But from as far as I can tell, this is nobody that you know. She even says she just found this bartender so it's not even like we get to learn how to make drinks with, cue some famous person you've heard of. All right, so they get to his bar and he's going to show them how to make some drinks. And he's like, okay, so what do you guys want to do? And I'm like, haven't you guys already decided this? This is awkward. And she's like, well, we want to like learn some traditional drinks, but then also something kind of new. He doesn't even listen to what she said. He's already decided what they're going to do. So he's like, okay, so I'm going to teach you how to make a 50-50 martini. And Megan's like, okay. And he's like, this is kind of like the if you know martini. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I guess I don't know what he knows. And so Megan's like, we want to know about that. And she's like, what can we do to help? And he's like, you can drink the drinks. Well, we're here to learn, man. It's like, did you miss the assignment? Did you miss what we were here for? Teach us how to do it. We didn't come so we could watch you make the drinks and then you just hand them over. So I'm feeling very awkward about this guy. Like, he's obnoxious because he got asked to do a thing and now he seems annoyed by it. And I'm like, well, this is your this is your problem. This is not Meghan Markle's problem for having you on the show. You shouldn't agree to it if you didn't want to do it. So she's like, okay, well, we can do that. But also, can you teach us? So he's teaching them how to make this 50-50 martini. Okay. I mean, I don't really know a lot about how to make a martini, but this seems pretty standard to me. But he says there's 50% of the alcohol is gin, and then the other 50% is vermouth. And then he puts in some like orange bitters and says this is like really light, very smooth, very poolside. So unenthusiastic Heather gets to try it first. She can't be bothered to give any kind of impression. She's like, yeah, it's good. So I'm like, is it not good? Or what's happening, Heather? And then Megan tries it and she's like, that's really good. Okay, that's really good. So now we know how to make a 50-50 martini. So neither one of them are blown away by what they just had. And then Brooklyn/Michael/director sees things are going poorly. Finally, he decides to step in and try to bring some life. Something has got to happen because the chemistry is atrocious. And so then he's like, hey, I'd like one of those. So Megan's like, okay, I'm going to make one for Michael, okay? So then she gets excited because the second love of her life is asking her to do something, and she loves to serve him because he likes to make a big deal out of everything she does. So she makes him a martini, and he just goes into gales and ecstasies of excitement. And this is what we've learned about Brooklyn/Michael/director. He has figured out what Megan needs. She needs praise, she needs accolades, and then that lifts her spirits, and then she's got enough energy to keep going on. She feeds off of that praise. And when she starts to get low energy, you'll see him immediately step in and ask her to do something for him so that then he can praise her efforts, and then she'll wake back up. Okay. Well, then it's time to learn about this other drink. In the interim, while they're setting up for this other drink, Megan asks him, so how did you get into mixology? And he's like, that's a good question. If it's a good question, then answer it. I hate that that's a good question. That's just filler talk. Answer it. And then he says that he used to be a lawyer in New York City. How bad of a lawyer were you to go from being a lawyer to being a bartender? That's an interesting trajectory. I've heard of being a bartender that then went to law school and became, but anyway, whatever. Maybe it was just too much for him and he had hit the bottle and decided that he could hit the bottle more effectively if he was actually working in the bar. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't be so hard on this guy. He was the worst. But Megan asks him, oh, did you ever watch Suits? Okay, just like throw the girl a bone. She was on a show about lawyers, and that's the best thing that she can do to connect with you about how you were a lawyer. Now, is that lame of Megan to have brought up her show where she pretended to be a lawyer and act like that was equal to what he did? Yes. But, let's just all get along, right? And then he looks at he's like, no. I don't watch basic cable. I like shows with cursing. I'm telling you, this exchange was the worst. And for all those people out there who were like, well, Megan deserves it. No one deserves it. He was just uncouth. And, I just think like, okay, you can dislike Megan all you want, but she's a human being too, who's just trying to make this moment happen. And everyone on set right now agreed to be here. So let's just get along. I don't watch basic cable. So Megan just kind of laughs and like moves on. She rolled with the punches, I'll say. I'll give her that because I thought this was just super awkward. Then he says, after we've shuffled through this awkwardness about Suits, that he's going to teach them how to make a drink that on his menu is called the Hedy La Margarita. Okay, Megan cannot wait to tell that she knows who Hedy Lamarr is. She used to be this actress, like back in the 40s, and she was like a European actress. but also she was no dimwit, and she was also a scientist. So Megan like jumps in and is like, yep, I know who that is. And she gives us her definition of who it is.
Hedy Lamarr.
Love Hedy Lamarr.
Famous Austrian actress.
Probably one of the foremost people in terms of STEM. Wow.
Yeah.
She was brilliant. So I love that you have a cocktail named after her.
It's good because most people at the party, they don't know what I'm talking about. But
Now, Megan is nothing if not a secretive researcher so that she can go into any situation and pretend like she already has all the info. Now, I would not say she's an in-depth researcher, but she definitely wants to know the surface level things so that she can jump in and look prepared. We've seen her do this many, many times with different chefs and things. She'll learn certain terminology so that when they say it, she can give the definition of, and then you'll just assume that she's a real deep thinker on the subject. Similarly, she couldn't wait to tell everybody that she knew who this was. But what I'm telling you right now is she very well may have known who that was. I think most of us have heard of who that is, even if we don't know a lot about her. But it would have also been just as easy. If you are looking for a bartender, would you not look to see what drinks he makes at his restaurant? So after reading the menu and seeing that name, if she wasn't familiar with it or wondered, like, what does that even mean? A quick Google search would have pulled up all that Megan conveyed to us as the audience. She gives us very little information, but just enough so that you think she must know who this is. And she gets this air of like real authority when she's conveying a bit of information to you. Her personality changes completely. And she's a little bit clipped in her delivery, like, yep, I could tell you more, but we're just going to move along. And it's not an invitation to ask more. It's very decisive, and she's going to tell this to you. A little bit of coldness because she doesn't want you to ask more because she doesn't know more. But she does want you to know that she knows something. It's very annoying how her personality changes in those moments. But anyway, we get past that. It's time to make the drink. This is a spicy margarita. It's almost a savory drink. And so the bartender is going to use this kind of liquor that's made out of like cumin and coriander seeds. Disgusting. That doesn't sound good to me. But it doesn't appear to be very enticing to the ladies either.
Oh, whoa. Oh, wow. That is
very savory.
wild.
And so they're making it, and everybody feels very skeptical about how this is going to turn out. Of course, in the long run, at the very end, oh, look at that. It's a pretty orange color, and it's spicy and delicious. This is so good, says Megan at the end of it. And that ends our mixology class. 2 drinks. You know what, guys? That's pretty much it. The last scene is them sitting on the balcony of their hotel room, and she's giving the girl the gifts she made. At least their last scene together. She gives her the cookies, and the girl is just, oh, thanks. I mean, like, did you guys bring a corpse to this show? I'm talking about somebody who is so unanimated that I was struggling to comprehend why she'd agreed to this. The entire show, I'm wondering why everybody agreed to this. And then the very final scene is Megan back at the rental house. She's in her craft barn, and she's received a package from the Pottery company. Of course, they had to fire the pottery and finish it. And anyway, it's arrived to Megan's house. It's beautifully wrapped, but there's a note inside thanking her for the day, but also informing her that one of the cups, one of the mugs, has met its demise. Heather was having problems making sure the bottom of her mug was thick enough, so this comes as no surprise that there's a hole in hers. But the owner of the pottery studio suggested it might make a nice candle holder. So, of course, then Megan's got to make a candle because she's got all the stuff. So she melts down some wax, and then she puts in her essential oils, and then she pours candle wax into this vessel that has a sizable crack in the bottom. That feels like an obvious question mark. But Megan provides a picture of her friend lighting the candle back at her house, so that's proof that this worked after all. What's weird to me is that there, at no time do we discuss how she's going to keep the liquid wax from running out of the bottom. I can imagine that when the candle is set, you could probably use this, but when the wax is hardened at the bottom, it would kind of create a bit of a seal, at least if you don't let the candle burn all the way down. But when we're pouring in the liquid wax, how do we keep everything from running out of the bottom? I mean, she didn't even like cut a piece of parchment paper to fit into the bottom. So I don't know how all that worked out, but there was picture evidence that it all worked out because here is Heather with her candle. And that was the end of that episode. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. I could not bring it. I had nothing. I had nothing. But tomorrow's our last episode. And then, of course, we have Friday News Roundup. So there's that to look forward to. I also want to say, for what I feel like is the umpteenth time, so for those of you who are paying attention, I apologize. You already know this. But for those of us who continue to ask me when I'm going to finally read Entitled, on the 15th, September 15th, that's Monday. We're going to start Entitled on Monday. Okay. I feel like I've said that a lot, but every single day I'm getting comments and people like, when are you going to start that book already? When? I'm like, I don't know how many more times I have to say it. All right, but for all of you who aren't asking, sorry about that. Okay, so you already know, but some people don't. So September 15th, please mark your calendars. That's when we'll start Entitled. And I'm going to try to do an episode a day of that just because it's, let's get through it. But then, obviously Fridays will continue to remain our Friday News Roundup. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow and we'll finish up this series. Thanks for watching. Bye.